After being reborn, I switched up my college choice. Liam was always chilling on campus over the weekends. So I bunked in my room hitting the books nonstop. When he brought Ava back home, I decided to move out. When he chose to go to University Z with Ava instead, I threw my hat in the ring for University X. In my past life, right before the college entrance tests, Liam, fully aware I hadn't swiped anything, still called me a thief. He did it just to make sure he and Ava could be together without any drama. Fine, let them link up, but keep it clean and honest. Did they even deserve that? Nobody knew I had been reborn. Gazing at my mock exam scores, I was about to lose it. In my previous life, just before the college entrance exams, I was wrongly accused of snagging Ava's watch. The accusation broke me mentally, leading to my worst exam performance ever and results way below my usual. The first thing I did after being reborn was switch my college pick to University X. My teacher was blown away and asked, "Weren't you always saying you wanted to go to the same school as Liam? Does he know about this?" Hearing Liam's name, I pictured his tall protective stance flashing through my mind. Everyone always said I wasn't good enough for him. His family was loaded, he was handsome, and he was the teacher's pet. Meanwhile, I was just the kid from his dad's old buddy in the military, someone his family backed out of loyalty. I gave a small smile and replied, "I don't see it that way anymore. I feel like University X fits me better now." In my previous life, my mock exam scores always beat University X's cutoff, but to follow Liam, I dumbly switched to University Z. My sudden move surprised my teacher, who gave me a thumbs up. Back then, Liam and Ava set me up, saying I stole Ava's watch. Ava had pulled me aside in front of everyone, tears streaking her face, demanding justice. "Me, I know my family isn't rich and you look down on me, but this watch was a gift from Liam. I've been so careful with it. Please, I'm begging you, just give it back," she said, her voice shaking. Her crying got louder as she collapsed into Liam's arms. Liam glared at me and said, "Mia, when you were hassling Ava, did you ever think about your own background? Being broke isn't wrong, but letting poverty lead to bad intentions is. Hand over the watch now and we'll forget this ever happened." The crowd looked at me with disgust, mocking and loving the drama. I smiled bitterly. The guy who once promised to protect me forever, how did he turn out like this? My chest felt like a rock was squeezing it. My heart hurt so much. I hadn't taken the watch, so how could I give it back? They had no solid proof against me, so they couldn't do much then. But I never expected Liam, who had always been nice to me, to lock me in a room claiming to teach me a lesson while his parents were away. Ava had complained about our public fight, saying it embarrassed her. Liam told me I had always been tough, so a bit of pain wouldn't matter. Ava, being sensitive, couldn't handle the public gossip. That night the door stayed locked. My nerves finally snapped. The next day was the college entrance exam. I pounded on the door and windows, yelling for help, but only my own voice echoed in the huge empty house. Feeling hopeless, I grabbed a glass from the desk and smashed it against the window without thinking. The shards cut my skin and the pain was too much. Under the faint dawn light, I sat there shivering and cold. I pushed through the pain and somehow finished the 3-day exam, but my mind was wrecked. I did worse than ever and ended up at a mediocre university in the end. I died in a car crash planned by Ava. I hated those two with everything I had, but now I had another shot. I was reborn 3 months before the college entrance exams. This time I could flip the script. Back at Liam's house, I started packing my stuff. This house was a wedding gift from Liam's parents for when he tied the knot. Sophia had always been nice to me, but there was no future for Liam and me anymore. The warmth I felt for Sophia had to stay buried deep inside. As I packed my things, I began making a new study plan. My eyes landed on a picture of my dream university on the wall. Hope filled my heart. As long as I stayed focused and nailed the exams, I'd soon ditch this place for good. That evening, I cooked dinner as usual. Liam came back as expected, with Ava trailing behind him. "Mia," Ava chirped sweetly. "Liam brought me over again for dinner. You cool with that, right?" Ava was petite, her oval face framed by fair skin. She looked super pure and delicate in her white school uniform. She made herself comfy, squealing with joy at the sight of the dishes I'd made. Without thinking, she called out for Mrs. Davis, the housekeeper, to serve the food. She got a bowl of porridge. Liam got one and Mrs. Davis got one, but none for me. By the time I got back from the bathroom, the three of them were already at the table chatting and laughing like a family. Ava took one bite and immediately spat it out. "I'm allergic to peanuts," she exclaimed, tears filling her eyes. I leaned against the door frame, watching Liam pour her a bowl of soup. He didn't realize until it was too late that it also had a peanut base. Ava left the house crying, muttering to Liam as she went MIA, "Probably doesn't like me, I won't come back anymore." Liam walked her to the door and came back frowning. I ignored him and sat down to eat. "You did that on purpose," he said. His voice was confused. Then, like he was trying to justify himself, he added, "Ava's family is struggling. I bring her here to have a good meal just like my family did for you all those years." I didn't say anything. Liam sighed and shook his head as if giving up. "If you don't like her, I'll take her to a restaurant next time." A week later, Liam stayed on campus to tutor Ava. Meanwhile, I carried a big stack of practice exams to the library. In the past, Liam would stay home and study with me. I'd patiently help him through each problem. But now he was focused on helping his new flame prep for their future at University Z. As I packed my books, I found certificates of achievement Liam and I had earned over the years. I couldn't help but wonder, would he keep his grades up while using study sessions as excuses for their dates? I decided to take my own certificates, my hard-earned achievements, and pack them into my bag. These honors were mine alone, earned through my effort, not thanks to Liam or his family. I bundled them up and left the house for the old apartment building where I grew up. It was far out in the suburbs, but it held my childhood memories. I carefully cleaned my dad's military plaque, the one he had received posthumously for his bravery. "Dad," I whispered, "I promise I'll do whatever it takes to achieve my goals." With just over 2 months left until the exams, I could already see freedom on the horizon. After that, I would leave Liam's family behind for good. Liam came home late that night. The dinner I had made was untouched. "I ate at school," he explained casually, but the faint scent of gardenias on him told me otherwise. He had eaten with Ava. He probably knew it wouldn't sit well to bring her back, so they ate out before he returned. I silently motioned for Mrs. Davies to clear the dishes and went to my room. The only stuff left in the room was some seasonal clothes and study materials. I packed the clothes into my suitcase, leaving the rest for later. Once Liam went out on one of his dates next week, I packed the rest of my things. Determined to build a better future, I dedicated all my time to studying. While others wasted their days flirting and chatting, I poured every bit of energy into my review sessions. I was deep into my work when a knock came at the door. I knew it was Liam. My dad had saved Liam's dad's life on the battlefield, sacrificing his own in the process. Because of this, Liam always treated me with respect. He would never enter my room without my permission. "What's up?" I asked, not wanting him to see I was packing. He hesitated before saying, "The engagement banquet is being set up. How about the third day after the exams?" In my past life, our engagement had been arranged by our parents, set to happen right after the college entrance exams. I glanced at my suitcase and replied indifferently, "The college entrance exams, there's no rush, let's talk once Sophia gets back." Liam stood silently outside my door for a long moment before finally walking away. I finally heard Liam's footsteps fade away and I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Resting my head on the desk, I felt a sense of relief. Given Liam's age, Sophia usually trusted his judgment more. Since I had lost both my parents as a child, Sophia took me in because of the marriage pact our parents had made to outsiders. I was already seen as part of Liam's family and the engagement was just a formality. Besides, Liam was handsome, excelled in his studies, and treated me well. It was no secret that my heart had always been as everyone could see it. I owed the Brown family for raising me all these years, but I had paid them back in full, teaching Liam tirelessly. Even in my past life, when he falsely accused me and locked me in a room, ruining my future, that was enough repayment. In this life, I owed them nothing. I was set on walking my own path. That weekend, to my surprise, Liam didn't stay on campus. He even brought breakfast, my favorite, ate treasure porridge and fried dew sticks. It was something he hadn't done in ages. I scrolled through vocabulary words on my phone as I silently sat down at the table. The only sounds were the occasional clinks of utensils against bowls. "I'll stay home with you to study today," Liam suddenly said, breaking the silence. I looked at him surprised and instinctively shook my head. "Don't you want me to keep you company?" he asked, frowning slightly. "You'd just be stuck in your room all weekend." I was about to find an excuse to decline when the doorbell rang. Ava's voice came through the intercom. "Liam," she called cheerfully. She stood at the door holding 2 breakfasts in her hands. As soon as the door opened, she tilted her head up and smiled at Liam, effectively blocking my view of him. "Why are you here?" "I told you to wait for me," Liam said, moving slightly to shield her from my gaze. Ava peeked out cautiously from behind his chest. Sorry, Mia, she said softly. I was worried he might skip breakfast, so I came to find him. I stared at her face, so innocent and pure, just like in my past life. No matter what she said, it could always trigger Liam's protective instincts. When Liam heard that she was willing to skip eating just for him, he naturally followed her out, quickly ditching his earlier promise to stay. So much for keeping me company. He had planned to meet her all along, I scoffed to myself. Then at least I didn't have to worry about making up an excuse to pack my stuff and leave. I pulled out my phone and checked my moving checklist, wasting no time. I dragged my previously packed clothes and belongings out of the house and called a moving service to take them to my new apartment. Once everything arrived, I organized my things and smiled at the photos of the modest place. Dad, I whispered, your daughter can live just fine on her own without relying on anyone. I spent the whole day at home studying and only came back to Liam's house in the evening. The intense pace of exam prep made the days fly by. Late at night, under the glow of street lights, it was always my shadow hunched over books, chasing knowledge. On Friday evening, Sophia and her husband Mr. Brown came back from a business trip. They sat quietly on the living room sofa for a long time before letting out a deep sigh. Mia, Sophia began earnestly, he's just close with another classmate, but you and Liam have been better since childhood. If he doesn't marry you, I'll make sure he regrets it. Your parents trusted us to take care of you before they passed away. Besides, your father saved our family. You don't have to worry about anything. When I didn't respond, they exchanged a glance before shaking their heads in frustration. You're so stubborn, Burn, Sophia finally said with a sigh. Fine, we'll cancel the engagement banquet. I listened silently as Sophia made the call to cancel the banquet. She told the event company to withdraw the reservation and refund the deposit. Just like that, the engagement banquet, still in its planning stages, was gone. Letting out a small sigh of relief, I stood up and bowed deeply to both of them. I knew they meant well. By all accounts, Liam was the teacher's pet, in everyone's eyes the perfect son. Even his own parents couldn't understand why I was so insistent on canceling the engagement. But I couldn't explain. I couldn't tell them that in my past life I was betrayed by those closest to me, stumbled during the college entrance exams, had my entire life turned upside down, and ultimately died in a car crash caused by jealousy and malice. After the engagement was cancelled, Sophia and Mr. Brown told me I would always be their daughter even without the formal arrangement. I didn't tell them that I planned to leave their family after the exams. For now, I stayed determined to be with them for the next 2 months. In the days leading up to the exams, Sophia insisted on driving me to school as she held my hand tightly. Her voice trembled with emotion, urging me to study hard and promising to visit me often. When I unpacked my things at school, I found she had slipped a thick wad of cash into my bag. Tears streamed down my face. Sophia must have noticed that my room was slowly being emptied, but she chose not to confront me. Instead, she let me carry out my plan. Sophia must have noticed that my room was slowly being emptied, but she chose not to confront me. Instead, she let me go with my plans, respecting my decisions like a quiet guardian. I opened my suitcase to grab some clothes when I suddenly heard Liam's voice at the door. Is Ava still upset? I turned to see Liam standing there, his face clearly startled when he realized it was me. Mia, what are you doing here? He asked, flustering. I gestured toward the room next door. Your room is over there. At that moment, the door to the neighboring room opened and Ava peeked out. She offered me an awkward smile before retreating back inside. I looked at Liam. Guilt was written all over his face. After a moment of hesitation, he said, Ava's home situation isn't great and she lives far from the school. With the exams coming up, I thought it'd be easier for her to stay here since our place is close to campus. I hadn't expected things to get to the point where they were sharing a roof and apparently a bed. Liam seemed to sense my silence. After a pause, he added, Right, why don't you move your stuff into my room? You can stay there for now, I'll take the floor. As he spoke, he opened the door to his room and looked inside. By the way, what happened to all the books in your room? You used to have so many. I picked up one of my textbooks and pursed my lips. Well, this house was his after all. It didn't matter to me where I stayed as long as I wasn't treated like a guest. I've already finished those books. They weren't useful anymore, so I got rid of some of them, I said casually. Liam frowned. Even if the exams are only 2 days away, you might need those books later. Why would you sell them? I didn't respond, staying silent. He added, What about the engagement? What did my parents say? He placed the book back on the desk. And I replied evenly, They said the time wasn't right. We'll talk about it later. This was the excuse I had agreed upon with Sophia and Mr. Brown to delay the engagement. Once I moved all my stuff out and settled back into my new home, I planned to have a proper conversation with him about it. Liam seemed satisfied with the explanation and didn't question it further. He nodded lightly and muttered, "All right, if that's the case then." He stepped out saying he'd handle moving some things and that I didn't need to worry about it. I looked at the room's nearly empty bookshelf. Only a few martial arts novels we had read together remained. For a moment I thought about returning them to Liam, but my thoughts were cut off by the sound of laughter outside. Liam's voice was deep and calm, Ava's playful and flirty, and Mrs. Davis's kind and cheerful. The three of them seemed so at ease, like nothing had changed. I sat back down silently. Sharing a room with Liam was already inappropriate, even if the engagement hadn't been cancelled. But with the college entrance exams just 2 days away, leaving now would only cause unnecessary drama. Liam would surely make a scene. I decided to wait until bedtime to quietly set up a spot for myself on the living room couch. After studying all day, I wanted to crash early. However, Ava, full of energy, was lounging in the living room in a camisole nightgown, pulling Liam aside to help her with her questions. Liam glanced at me briefly before coaxing her upstairs, yet their laughter and conversation carried through the walls, intentionally loud enough for me to hear. Feeling suffocated, I stepped outside for some fresh air. "Mia, why are you out here in the middle of the night? Aren't the exams soon? You'll catch a cold," called the neighbor from her window, her concern genuine. "The house was stifling," I replied with a small smile. The neighbor, whose husband worked in real estate, had a comfy life. She often brought me little souvenirs from her trips abroad, treating me kindly. She leaned over the balcony, her tone X's air at that Liam. I swear he seemed so devoted, but look at him now, bringing some other girl into the house right before your big exams. And you, why don't you put him in his place? You're too nice. The two of you are practically engaged. But you're letting this slide. If you let him get away with it now, he'll think he can walk all over you in the future. She kept ranting, but I only half listened. Apparently Liam had told everyone that I suggested bringing Ava home because of her poor family situation and long commute, claiming I wanted to help her focus on studying. I laughed to myself bitterly. Clearly Liam was just trying to save face, using me as a shield to fend off criticism. But since I was planning to leave soon, I didn't want to waste energy on pointless arguments. I nodded politely and said nothing. The next morning I left for school early. The neighbor saw me off, urging me again to talk some sense into Liam. I just smiled and waved goodbye. When I arrived at the classroom, there weren't many students yet. I took out my notebook of mistakes and reviewed a few questions. But then I noticed something that didn't belong to me, a shiny, obvious watch placed in plain sight, pushing my books to the corner of the desk. "Ah, Liam, my watch is gone." Ava's panicked voice rang out as she frantically searched her bag, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. That watch was worth nearly $10,000. I held the watch in my hand, planning to return it, but the moment Ava saw it, a glint flashed in her eyes. She suddenly lunged toward me, slapping my hand hard. The watch flew out and hit the floor with a clatter, grabbing everyone's attention. The whisper started immediately. "Isn't Mia the one raised by Liam's family? How could she steal someone else's stuff? Even if she dreams of marrying rich, a dog's nature can't change." Ava's voice, soft and tearful, chimed in. "Liam, there must be some misunderstanding. Mia must have her reasons." Her tone was so innocent, so considerate, just as I remembered from my past life. She always seemed harmless, but her words twisted the truth and planted doubt in others' minds. Liam frowned deeply. "Mia, do you know that stealing is a crime? You could go to jail for this." Ava's friends quickly chimed in. "Ava, why are you defending her? Someone like that probably has her eyes on more than just your watch, and to throw this right before the exams, she must be trying to mess with you on purpose." Another student added with disdain, "She's just jealous that Ava and Liam are close, but that doesn't excuse breaking the law. She could ruin her entire future." More voices joined in. "You never really know people, do you? We should just call the police." I stood silently amidst the accusations, the chaos swirling around me, feeling the all-too-familiar sting of betrayal. I picked up the shattered glass-covered watch and said, "Sure, call the police. After all, the only person who really knows how this watch ended up in my drawer is the one responsible. Barefoot doesn't fear wearing shoes," I thought. Sure enough, Ava's face turned pale as she clung tightly to Liam's sleeve. No, don't call the police," she stammered. "That wouldn't be good for Mia. She's about to take her exams too." Her friends, however, weren't so kind. "Ava, you're too soft-hearted," one of them said. "People like her will just take advantage of your kindness." Soft-hearted, I let out a bitter laugh, then suddenly raised my hand and slapped Ava across the face. The sharp sound echoed in the room, leaving her stunned and speechless. "Pathetic, aren't you, Ava? Do you really not know what you've done? Do you need me to air out all your dirty deeds for you to feel satisfied?" Liam, seeing her cheek rapidly swell, immediately pulled her into his arms. "Mia, what's wrong with you? Have you lost your mind?" "Lost my mind?" I laughed bitterly. "That's rich. She's the one accusing me of theft right before the most Important exam, lost my mind. I laughed bitterly. That's rich. She's the one accusing me of theft right before the most important exam of my life. You want the truth? Check the security cameras, they'll tell you everything. A few students who had stayed neutral began to speak up. Yeah, let's just check the cameras, that'll clear everything up. Liam's expression darkened, but he muttered, Mia, there's no need to deny it, I can pay for the watch. I took a step back and sneered, you think I did it? Liam, you've known me for years, do you really believe I'm that kind of person? He hesitated, his fingers twitching slightly as if reconsidering his assumptions, but then the notice came back, the security cameras had conveniently been out of order. I had no way to prove my innocence, and the watch ended up being handed over to the principal. The teacher, aware of the watch's high value, called me into the office. Liam suddenly appeared and declared Ava said she won't press charges. The Brown family's wealth and influence were undeniable, even the principal couldn't ignore Liam's words. The teacher looked troubled but had no choice but to return the watch. Ava, of course, put on another performance, crying dramatically for over an hour while Liam comforted her. He seemed entirely absorbed in her tears, paying no attention to anyone else. Later that evening, Liam came to find me. Mia, he began, his tone suggesting he wanted to argue. I sat down waiting for him to speak. He hesitated, his face stiff and uncomfortable. I'll sleep on the couch tonight, he finally said. I stayed silent. He paused again, clearly unable to hold back what he really wanted to say. Ava is upset, he continued. She cried all afternoon. Couldn't you have just let her be? It's only a couple of days until the exams. Do you really have to be so petty? I let out a cold laugh which seemed to catch him off guard. He probably expected me to get angry, maybe even start defending myself. Instead, my calmness seemed to annoy him more. Fine, I said, smiling faintly, whatever you say. This unexpected response made him falter for a moment. He seemed unsettled, as if something was slipping out of his control. In my past life I had trailed after Liam like a shadow, laughing only when he laughed, afraid to cry if he was displeased. Looking back, I felt like a fool. In this life I knew better, I would keep my distance. Liam clearly hadn't expected my easy agreement. His expression flickered with a hint of panic, as if he could sense that something was slipping away but couldn't grasp it. The next day I returned to my old apartment a day earlier than planned. I took all my personal documents with me just in case. That night I sat at my desk reviewing my mistake book. Halfway through I heard a knock at the door. Thinking it was my neighbor, I opened it without much thought. Standing there was Liam, wearing only a t-shirt, his face pale and his hair messy as if he'd been out in the cold night wind. My first thought was that Liam still wasn't willing to let me go. The neighborhood was quiet, with only the occasional cry of a stray cat echoing in the darkness. Liam stared at me intensely, his eyes drilling into mine as if he were searching for answers or trying to break through my resolve. Come home with me, Liam said, his voice unusually soft. I looked at him calmly and replied, this is my home. He reached out, trying to grab my hand, but I took a step back to avoid him. Mia, don't be mad, please, just come home with me, he said. Liam lifted one foot as if about to step inside and help me with something, but I quickly pushed the door half closed. His gaze landed on the item sitting on the edge of my living room table, and his expression immediately shifted. What are those? I froze for a moment. They were the things I had packed up and brought back from the Browns' household, books I planned to sell. Liam's face grew tense. His expression was a mix of confusion and anger. You've kept them in such good condition. You've always been careful with your stuff, he muttered as if talking to himself. I sighed, but my grip on the door handle stayed firm. Liam frowned. You're still upset? Ao was in a hurry and misunderstood you, but she really loves that watch. She's always respected you and she cares about you. She even urged me to come find you today, but I was always so. He trailed off when he noticed how I was looking at him, distant as if he were a stranger. His mouth moved as if to say more, but the words never came out. I laughed dry. Respect isn't getting cozy with someone else when you know your engagement is coming up. Respect isn't letting her sleep in your bed while you're still with someone else. Liam's face cracked, his expression wavering between disbelief and defensiveness. What cozy? I just feel sorry for her. Her family situation isn't good, so I'm just helping her out a bit more. Helping her? I scoffed. Does helping include sharing a bed? When did giving every girl you feel sorry for a home become your life's mission? His face turned pale, his composure visibly shaken. Mia, you're angry right now. Let's calm down. Tomorrow the driver will come to pick you up, he said hastily before turning and stumbling out of the apartment. I watched him leave, listening to his hurried, uneven footsteps fading down the stairs. Smiling faintly, I closed the door. It's funny how extreme anger can make you laugh. How could I have been so blind in my past life, chasing after someone so alien to me? Determined to avoid a repeat of my past, I focused all my energy on studying, staying at home, and keeping to myself. Liam didn't try to find me again. One evening as I was reviewing mistake explanations, I heard a faint rustling outside my door. Curious, I turned the handle to check, but the clinking sound of a chain suddenly echoed. I realized I'd been locked in with an iron chain. I couldn't believe Ava had the nerve to pull such a stunt even in a different setting. Without hesitation, I grabbed my phone. The next morning our class gathered outside getting ready to enter the exam hall. Ava was smiling brightly, her mood unusually cheerful. "Don't worry, Mia won't be late," she said with a smug confidence. Liam, standing beside her, gently patted her head. "Good luck on your exams." Ava, looking into her dew-like eyes, her expression softened, but then he seemed to recall the cold, detached look had given him the other day. A trace of unease flickered across his face, an emotion he couldn't quite shake off. As the teacher ushered the students into the exam hall, my absence became obvious. Ava's smile widened, her heart bubbling with joy like an open can of soda she could already imagine. "I wouldn't show up." Joy bubbled up within Ava as she beamed with satisfaction. After the final exam, reporters caught up with Noah, the perennial runner-up, and the grade rankings for an interview. The host asked, "You're the first student we've interviewed. Was this exam tough for you?" Noah smiled confidently at the camera. "It was manageable." Ava, walking behind him, chimed in with a sweet smile. "Noah, this time you'll finally be first in the grade rankings." Noah's expression darkened, his usual politeness cracking. "Don't set me up for failure, Ava," he said sharply, his tone making her flame. Ava scrambled to explain, "But Mia didn't even show up for the exams." "Fear not first, then who else could be?" Noah didn't bother responding to her. From the day the exams began, I hadn't stepped foot back into the Browns' home. The next time I saw Liam was just before the celebration banquet. Ava, clinging to Liam's arm with a radiant smile, walked in with him. The moment Liam saw me, he instinctively shook her hand off. Though his mood seemed off, he quickly recovered and smiled at me. "Mia, it's okay if the exams didn't go well. You can always repeat the year. My cousin runs a fantastic prep class. The resources are excellent. I can recommend you join. With your previous performance, you'd surely get into University X next year and even be our junior." I pressed my lips together lightly and said, "Such a great opportunity, why not save it for yourself?" Ava's friends immediately jumped in, bristling with indignation. "Mia, don't be so ungrateful. Ava's just thinking about what's best for you. Plenty of people take an extra year to study and improve. Don't throw away your future just because of your pride." Their fake sincerity was so blatant it was laughable. Noah happened to walk in at that moment and overheard their remarks. With a disdainful glance, he said, "Ava, you and your pack of dogs are barking nonsense again. On the day of the exams you were cursing someone to fail. Now you're shamelessly suggesting a top student retake the year. Your audacity is incredible. I want me to give you an award for it." Ava's face turned pale. She glanced at Liam, clearly hoping for support. Liam frowned, seemingly displeased with Noah's mocking tone, and took a step closer to me. "Even if you didn't take the exam, just come home," Liam said. "Even if you don't go to college, my family can still take care of you." And that's when I realized no matter how outraged I was, Liam would always justify it to him. Her actions were excused by her tough upbringing and others were expected to accommodate her. Something inside me snapped. Without warning, I slapped Liam across the face. The sharp sound silenced everyone. Ava froze mid-cry. The tears in her eyes vanished in shock as she stepped protectively in front of Liam. "Why did you hit him? Are you crazy?" she shouted, raising her hand to slap me in return. Before her hand could land, Noah grabbed her wrist and shoved her heart, causing her to stumble into Liam's arms. "I've seen enough." "A little discipline won't hurt," Noah said coldly, his smile more like a sneer as he looked at the two of them like they were a ridiculous show. Liam's expression darkened as he walked over to me, grabbing my wrist tightly. "You're coming with me today. We need to settle this once and for all." Pain shot through my arm and I stumbled forward, nearly crashing into him. I instinctively prepared to kick him. But Noah was quicker. His fist connected with Liam's jaw, sending him stumbling backward. Noah stepped protectively in front of me, shielding me with his arm. "Are you blind? She doesn't want to go with you. Then back off. Go to the hospital and get your eyes checked," Noah said, his voice calm but laced with warning. Liam clutched his iron jaw, his face a mix of anger and frustration. His glare bore into me as if trying to suppress the storm brewing inside him. Ava quickly jumped in to diffuse the tension. "Liam, don't fight over someone like her. It's not worth it," she said, desperately tugging at his arm. A few classmates, having arrived early, began to notice the commotion and turned to watch. Liam's expression shifted multiple times, his chest rising and falling with restrained emotions. Finally he turned to me and said in a low, deliberate voice, "Mia, I'm so disappointed in you," I said to Liam, and after everyone left I stood there for a moment, calming my emotions. Noah looked at me, a trace of concern on his face. I shook my head. It's just that I didn't get the chance to kick him earlier. You beat me to it. Such a shame. Noah fell silent for a moment, then burst into hearty laughter. I really didn't expect that. I didn't attend the celebration banquet in the end. Noah, noticing my reluctance to deal with Liam and Ava, suggested we go to the riverside to watch the fireworks instead. Parents celebrating the end of exams had bought fireworks, and we spent 3 hours watching the colorful bursts light up the cold night sky. As the final pieces fell glittering and fading, the night grew quiet. Noah turned to me, his profile sharp in the dim light, and leaned down to whisper near my ear, "Why not consider someone else for a change?" I stayed silent, pretending not to hear. Right now my plans for the future didn't include love. My heart was void of men. I believed I needed solitude to grow stronger. The day the results were released, gossip spread like wildfire among the students. Ava had been taken away by the police right after checking her scores. Pictures of her being escorted into a police car flooded every group chat. At the same time, news of my being ranked first in the grade spread just as quickly. Some classmates from my exam hall came forward. "I told you I saw someone sitting in her seat. You all insisted she didn't take the test." "Yeah, I saw her too," another chimed in. "She took the test and even got into University X. I feel so proud to say I'm in the same class as Mia. It's a dream come true." The tide of public opinion shifted rapidly. Videos of Ava boasting to the host about Noah becoming the top-ranked student resurfaced and were now ridiculed online. The backlash was swift and merciless. After being bailed out by Liam's family money, Ava discovered the tables had turned completely in my favor. Pale with rage, she fainted upon seeing a screenshot of my top-ranking scores and had to be hospitalized. On the eve of the exams, Ava had locked me in my old apartment building under the guise of trying to convince me she had manipulated Liam into giving her my address, all to disrupt my focus. I hadn't made a scene about it then. Instead, I quietly filmed her from the window, ensuring I had proof. I waited for this moment when she would soar to imagine heights only to plummet back down to reality. In the second chance at life, I couldn't let her actions go unpunished. Once in college, I juggled part-time work with my studies, consistently ranking at the top of my class. I occasionally heard rumors about Ava and Liam breaking up. Apparently, during a conversation with her friends, Ava had accidentally let slip details about the watch and locking me in the room. Liam overheard everything. He had been shocked, his perception of Ava completely shattered. He confronted her, demanding to know why she had pretended to be innocent all these years while blaming everything on me. For years he had believed I was petty and mean-spirited, a bully. The stark contrast between what he had thought and the truth made him question his own judgment. By the time Liam realized he had been wrong about everything, it was winter. Ava cried and begged him for 2 months, but all she got in return was a large breakup settlement and a curt "don't let me see you again." That was Liam, always so self-centered, placing himself above everyone else. Meanwhile, Noah, who had also gotten into University X, kept subtly making his presence known. He'd sit beside me in class, join me for meals, or wait outside my classroom after exams. Today there were fireworks near the river 5 kilometers from campus. Noah had invited me, and I agreed. It was time to address the dynamic between us and give our relationship some clarity. As the year ended, I wore my winter coat and buried my face in a thick beige scarf at the campus gate. I unexpectedly saw Liam. His face was pale from the cold, and he looked haggard, as if he'd been waiting for a long time. The moment he recognized me, he rushed over and pulled me into a tight embrace. I struggled, pounding on his chest, but he didn't let go. He held the back of my head, his voice urgent as he said, "Mia, I know you're angry at me." Liam said, his voice heavy with regret, "but I'm actually glad, because it means you still care." I didn't answer. Instead, I lifted my knee and drove it straight into his stomach, pushing him away. "Go home, Liam. Stop acting crazy." Just as I finished speaking, Noah arrived. Catching sight of the scene, without hesitation he shoved Liam aside and instinctively stood protectively in front of me. "Haven't you had enough of haunting her like a ghost?" Noah snapped. Liam's expression darkened as his anger flared. Seeing Noah reminded him of the scene before the celebration banquet, and the memory only fueled his rage. "Noah," Liam growled, "are you coveting what's mine?" He raised his fist as if to strike. I stepped forward and cut him off before he could go any further. "Liam, we have nothing to do with each other anymore." Hearing me call his name, Liam froze, his aggressive posture faltering. "Mia," he murmured, his voice breaking, "I was wrong. If I had known you were going to call off the engagement, I never would have let you leave. I would have stayed by your side. I misunderstood you. I realize that now. Let's start over, please." I let out a cold laugh. "No, Liam, Noah, let's go." Without hesitation, I reached for Noah's hand, and he responded by gripping mine tightly. Liam stood there stunned as we walked away, his figure growing smaller in the distance. Left alone in the biting wind, he watched us, his face filled with disbelief. By the bridge, the cold wind swirled around us as vibrant colors from the fireworks danced across Noah's sharp profile. After a long silence he finally spoke. Mia, does this mean what I think it means? I couldn't help but laugh softly. I had been waiting for him to ask that. Opening my mouth to respond, I was interrupted as Noah gently placed his warm hand over my lips. Let me speak first, he said, his voice low and tender. His star-like eyes locked onto mine as he began. Mia, for 3 years you've always been ahead of me, whether in rankings in the dining hall or even in my thoughts. I've watched you eat, study and tackle exams with that serious focus of yours. First I thought it was admiration, but then I realized I'm a hopeless romantic and I'm hopelessly in love with you. He looked up at the sky, nose slightly red from the cold as I continued. I used to stand back watching you cry, smile and hurt, all for Liam. It made me feel like a terrible person lurking on the sidelines hoping for a chance that seemed impossible. Then Ava showed up and for the first time I felt like I could breathe again. He smiled wryly. I could tell you this story 100 times if you'd let me. I know you're scared of love, scared it'll distract you from your goals. You always say your heart has no place for men because you need your strength to wield your sword. Noah took a deep breath, his hand clenched at his side. Well, how about this? I'll wield the sword for you. Will you let me? I stared at him, caught off guard. Could it really be this simple? Slowly I took off my warm gloves, placing my hand in his. Then the job is yours, I said, smiling. Boyfriend? His previously composed face lit up with vivid emotion. Mia, he repeated, his voice full of joy. My girlfriend.